All right. Hello, everyone. Tonight on Pop Samurai Network, you are going to see a contention between some of our least favorite things of the 2010s. You will also see a review of a board game from 1979. Joel will bring back something potentially even older in a new segment. And Jelani will show off his new haircut. Stay tuned as we get started with Pop Samurai.
Pop Samurai, I choose you!
Is Pop Samurai?
No. Hey, Pop Samurai, if you're not listening to Pop Samurai, then you're doing nothing constructive. Correct.
In a world looking for something to listen to, a group of friends rise to the challenge. It's Pop Samurai.
All right. Welcome back, everyone. This is Pop Samurai Network. You're at twitch.tv/Pop Samurai Network. I am your host for this evening, Will Walkie Washkun. Joining me is my panel of hosts, Jelani Jaboy Hune and that other guy, Joel. Critical Joel Paprocki. I forgot the nickname.
Being the least gamer here, I think we should probably tabletop gamer. I should probably come up with a new nickname.
I love that nickname.
It's
though.
cool,
that nickname.
but I don't warrant it.
It is. Listen, folks, it's in the background, right? It's somewhere in the log. He kicked ass and rolled critical hits on every single roll during our playthrough of the Funkoverse.
I don't want to.
So he
That
has
did
earned
happen.
the name
Yeah.
of Critical Joel.
Hey, if you're out there and you think you kick ass at rolling, why don't you roll the D20 of follows?
Ooh.
Click that button and subscribe to Pop Samurai Network. Or roll some more dice and roll on over to our social media platforms. You can find us Pop Samurai Network on Facebook and Twitter. You can also find us Pop Samurai Cast on Twitter. That's what I meant. Pop Samurai Network on Instagram.
Mhm.
There it is.
There.
And you can also email us, popsamurai.network@gmail.com. Oh,
Okay.
and lest we forget, the home of Pop Samurai Network on the internet, www.popsamurainetwork.com. Now,
That's right.
with much to do and nothing further to say about it, guys, we have a list to make because we're
That's
talking about
right.
the top 5 disappointments of the 2010s. It was a long decade,
That's right. It was.
Yeah,
and
like 10
it
years
was
long,
made
yeah.
longer by all of these horrible things.
Yeah, that's for sure.
You guys have a lot of ammo for this
One
list?
could say it was 10 years too long.
Oh my. Well, I can feel the tension in the air here as we pretend to like these things and go down the list
Move along now,
arguing
people.
for them.
Nothing to see here. Will's making puns.
The pun machine has been activated.
Oh, man.
Pun you.
And
Pun you.
Will Walkie in the chat says, "Love you all." That's very nice of you.
Oh,
that's
well,
right.
never mind
It's-
then.
you didn't even
Never
see me
mind
type,
then.
did
It's
you?
weird.
That's because Jaboy Jelani Hoon has taken over
What you're talking
my
about.
handle and
Let's see how
is
much
going wild.
Let's see how
on the
much
internet.
incriminating stuff he can get out in one episode.
But more than that, let's see how much terrible stuff we can get onto a list in one episode.
Go for it.
And
do
let's
this.
get down to business. Joel, I want to see what you thought was your number 5 for the most
All right.
disappointing of the 2010s.
So, with
How dare you, by the way? You know I'm still tender
I love you.
from last week.
Aw.
You know I love you, bud. All right, let's go.
All right, so I would say this was a decade of remakes, and this one particularly struck a chord with me because for whatever reason, they just didn't live up to it, and they took a lot of liberties with it and then totally ran in a different direction than what I think they probably should have tried for. I might get some flack for this. We'll see in just a moment. Johnny might have a reaction, but I did not like 2014's RoboCop.
Oh,
Oh.
I own it, but I did not like it. I like the artist that did the concept art, but no, yeah, that's it. So
Right
move
on.
on.
All right. Well,
We're going this way.
it is a counterclockwise night, which means
oh,
Jelani,
alright.
you get to go
Haircut.
second.
Jaboy thought long and hard about this list. So my
Yikes.
number 5 here, over the decade that is now past us, I am putting at my number 5 the fall of Telltale is my most
Mm.
disappointing thing of the last decade. So Telltale, of course, if you guys know, is the company that brought us such games as the Walking Dead Telltale game, and then the Batman Telltale game, and the Wolf Among Us Telltale game.
Well done. Anything with a Telltale series in it in the title probably was a Telltale
Yes.
series.
So I put it in the list. I'll talk more about it.
All right, sounds good. My number 5 for the 2010s is going to go to a movie that everybody thought was going to be good and frankly should have been good, but it ultimately came out as kind of a sad, wet little fart in the MCU, and that is Age of Ultron, the second Avengers movie.
All right.
Many believe that it is one of the worst in the MCU, and I am one of those people.
Yeah.
That's
That's some contentious things you're saying there.
I can't believe it.
Woot woot.
All right. Joel, how about your number 4?
All right. So I had to get an anime on here, and I particularly do a lot of research usually when I'm going to watch an anime, so this was a difficult one for me to find. But I did recall one time I watched a few episodes of this show, and I hated every moment of it. I remember the build up to it as well because the trailers and stuff made it seem like a really cool idea. And well, it's not, and it turned out to be one of those like normie animes.
Okay.
Oh,
A normie anime.
Hold on a second. Normie
Yeah,
anime.
I don't even have glasses, but you could see mine lift. So this was Sword Art Online.
Sword Art Online, sure.
Yeah, it is a god awful
Oh.
show.
Okay.
And I'm sure somebody out there is gonna say, "Yeah, here we go. Didn't take long."
Jabberjock in the chat, thank you for joining us. Quicksilver was a great character.
It doesn't mean
in
that it's all
X-Men.
bad.
Correct.
Yeah,
In
exactly.
X-Men.
He is referring to,
Yeah,
of course,
Yeah.
the X-Man,
I love it.
the man of X.
Yes.
The
That
fast
man.
one.
That man.
Yeah. Jaboy, how about your number 4?
Jaboy, yeah. Number 4 for Jaboy here. It's very easy for me to say because this past decade of them trying to compete with another like whole universe, and they just fell flat here. So I'm putting up at my number 4 the DCEU failure to live up to anything.
EU as an expanded universe?
I believe that's what.
Yeah.
Is it EU? It's
Do
called
you,
the.
do
I
you
thought it
want
was
the
called-
DC Cinematic
No, yeah,
Universe?
CU.
Cinematic.
So
CU.
DCCU.
Yeah.
Is that what it's called? I
Yeah.
thought it was the EU.
Well, because the MCU is the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Well, yeah, but I know they had some weird, stupid name. All I know is
No, you're right.
they should have just called it the DCU. But whatever. Let's move on to that. Yeah, that's
we
my number
will
4.
move on.
That's why it's disappointing.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
No one even knows.
Yeah, exactly.
We're all just left to wonder.
Is it EU?
Well,
Is it-
that's
is it
the
EU?
The
DC
European
DC
Union.
Cinematic, whatever the fuck it is.
whatever the fuck it is, it's a great way to describe it.
So
Save your arguments for the argument
yep.
phase, because we're going to move on to my number 4.
Hit us with
yeah,
it.
yeah.
I am going to put a piece of tech down.
Mm.
I am going to talk about the Wii U
Oh, wow.
as a
Ew.
very, very boring and blah release. For a company that's
Totally
usually
agree.
known for a bunch of innovation and a really strong amount of tech, the
They
Wii
missed their
U
mark
was
on that
just
one,
a
yeah.
miss.
Yeah.
EU.
The
Yeah.
Wii U.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going with.
The Wii EU.
The Wii ECUCCZ.
There's a lot of U's in these failures, isn't there?
Joel, how about your
Alright.
number 3?
My number 3, I love me some Halo. So when this next release came out, I was thoroughly disappointed. It is not Halo, but it is made by those who made Halo.
Mhm.
It is Destiny. It did not live up to the
Oh.
hype I was expecting.
Wow.
See, I played a lot of Destiny and I actually enjoyed it.
I thought it would be a great idea to be like, oh, let's mix Halo with an RPG. And then I was like, it just didn't pan out for me.
It didn't work
Not
for
for
you.
me, yeah. So I'm going to put that one up. I'll describe it more later.
Halo Bejeweled.
Oh boy.
Precisely. Jelani, what's your number 3?
More like bedazzled.
Good one.
Number 3.
So
Number
bad.
3 is a broader topic, and it's kind of a thing that is kind of a disappointment in the industry as a whole. And so my disappointment of the past decade was how disappointed I am in the gaming industry and the last decade of microtransactions they try to shove down our throats.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Thank you.
I'm putting down microtransactions in my throat.
Dude, exploitation at its finest.
Yes. So disappointment on how they handled that in the last decade. Hopefully it gets better.
Perhaps very fitting, I have put down for my number 3 a video game that is the prime example of why microtransactions are bad, and that is Star Wars Battlefront.
I was wondering if you were going to say 2.
I did not say 2 because 2 at least had a story.
Yeah. All right.
But the original Battlefront
Yeah.
came out to such fanfare, and they worked so long and hard on it, and never have I seen a game so ruined by microtransactions. They had to walk back their stance on microtransactions several times just to get it right.
Yikes.
Oh yeah.
So that is what I am saying. Joel, what about your number 2?
All right. This one goes back to another video game with a fantastic franchise that somehow we all would think that this would have translated very well and very easily, but for some reason this game did not, and I have those reasons, and stay tuned for my discussion on that. It is Aliens Colonial Marines for PS3 in 2013.
Wow.
Yeah, that should have been a home run, no problem, and boom, flat on its face.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Jelani, why don't you tell us what your number 2 is, and maybe that will also be flat on its face.
Yes. I can. My number 2 on my list here of disappointments in the past decade was the last decade of the X-Men franchise.
Yeah. Good call.
So I'm gonna put that down as my number 2.
Absolutely.
Good call.
When
No,
was the last one that was any good?
Well, I guess we don't count Logan, right?
I mean, I'll talk about it.
Yeah. All right. My number 2 is actually our first repeat, and that is going to be the DCEU, DCCU, the DC movies.
Yes.
They're all white hot turds, as far as I'm concerned. They're just terrible.
All right. Yeah, we'll have some good discussion on that one.
Yes,
Is
I
it-
agree. Now is the point in the show when we pause for a moment to talk about the disappointments that were even too disappointing to get on this list.
I feel like it's an award show, and we should have like clips in the background with the, like the subtle music. Like,
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The
It
in
didn't make
memoriams.
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
That's what we got.
All right, so I had the DC universe on my list as well.
Mhm.
I didn't really want to bring it to this because I haven't seen all of them, so I couldn't discuss all of it. So the game Agony turned out to be terrible.
Mhm.
Metal Gear Survive, No Man's Sky, but I never got to play it in its entirety when it first came out, and now I know that they've corrected it since then, and I played the VR and that was fantastic, so that's why it was tough for me to put it on there. The PlayStation Network hack of 2011.
Yep.
I was forced to see 50 Shades of Grey a long time ago, and it was terrible.
Oh
Were you
no!
It
built
was-
up for that
And you
one?
were disappointed.
I was
in that?
just playing.
He was so ready for he was so ready for some hot bondage. He was ready for a playroom.
and it was just
and
the
then-
worst.
Oh,
the
buddy.
worst movie.
I know, I
He's
had
like,
to see it.
"Where's all the banging?"
There is no banging. That's the point.
It
Last
took too long to get to the banging.
just contracts, more contracts. All right. Last Airbender 2010,
Oh God, that was in this decade.
That wasn't this
Disney
decade.
live action, and I'm gonna put this on here even though I haven't finished it. Death Stranding.
Ah.
So we'll discuss that maybe at another point. But I haven't finished it, so I shouldn't run my mouth too much on that.
Nice.
I'm
Anyway.
disappointed in it too.
We'll see. I'm not going to just fanboy my way through this one.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Jelani,
let's let him do it.
what disappointed to disappoint?
For me and my disappointing list here, No Man's Sky was a big disappointment when it dropped, and it was a big thing that it was disappointment.
Yeah.
So even though they fixed it, it's fixed now. There's not big news of like they fixed it. There's big news that they failed. I'd say Star Wars in the last decade. Fallout 76 was a huge disappointment for me. One Punch Man season 2.
Oh God, yeah.
That was just not what I wanted. Mass Effect Andromeda, the Hobbit trilogy that came out. Wasn't a big fan of that. The PlayStation Network hack. That was a huge disappointment because I was the one person who was like, "Well, I can't use my PlayStation now." So yeah, and yeah, that's all I got for my little my list of dishonorable mentions.
Nice. You guys covered a lot of the ones that I was going to cover. Obviously, Telltale folding because of money problems was huge on my list. One Punch Man season 2 is a great call out. No Man's Sky almost made my list, and then I realized that I played it once at your place and liked it, so I took it off.
We had a blast.
We had a lot of fun with it later on, but the original release was pretty bad. A anime that Joel recommended to me that I didn't end up liking, Your Lie in April. I actually thought was just abysmal.
You have to bring that up with him because that's near and dear to Jelani. So
I still think it's good.
I thought it was one of the worst written things I'd ever watched. I think that's pretty much it for me.
Joel,
we like crummy anime. It's
fine.
Enough of this.
Yeah.
It's time to get to the real meat of tonight's story, and that is our number ones. Joel, what is the biggest disappointment?
I was the biggest fan, and I have rescinded that biggest fanness or fandom because of the Disney Star Wars new trilogy.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
How do I say this? I have stopped caring what they do with it, which is sad.
Yeah, no,
So
when it takes you weeks to go see...
I haven't even seen it.
The movie, you haven't even seen it?
Yeah, I don't have any interest, honestly. But I will probably see it. But anyway, let Jelani go. So save that for the discussion.
That's okay. The new movie fixes everything.
I hope so. I sure hope so.
No. Just hold out for Mandalorian season 2.
Cram everything into a 5-hour movie.
Have you seen Mandalorian yet?
Yes. Well, no, the first episode. I'm sorry.
Oh my God. That is something that might restore your faith.
Yeah, I understand.
That and Jedi Fallen Order. But anyway, go to Jelani for number 1.
Number 1 is going to be
He's
the Disney
the Jurassic Park
live action remakes. Is what I'm going for my number 1.
Beautiful. Unnecessary. We'll get to that. I don't want to take your words. I think we're gonna be like agreeing with. We're gonna be like totally agreeing with one another here.
Yeah, because these are some pretty deplorable things.
Yeah.
And my number 1, I heard at least once earlier in this episode. But you know me, it's gotta be Mass Effect Andromeda. Ultimately, not a bad game, but it launched bad. It was not up to Mass Effect standards, and it killed the franchise. They're not coming out with Mass Effects anymore because it was that bad.
Yeah, that's a
so
shame.
That's got to be my number 1.
I was wondering if you guys would put that on you.
Mm-hmm. All right. Now, I'm going to check in at chat.
Yep, just check in.
If they link it to the new trilogy. We'll see. Jabberjock obviously commiserating with us over Star Wars and The Mandalorian. And designer Awash agreeing with me that it was such a bad Mass Effect game. Again, if you don't think of it as a Mass Effect game, it wasn't horrible, but that's a long stretch in your brain. All right. The time for nominating is now. We are going to go through our lists, pick the ones that we think should make the show's big, beautiful list, and then we will have rounds of debate, after which we will vote, and we will see which of these is the most disappointing of the disappointing. Joel, I've been picking on you to go first this whole time.
Yep.
And that's not changing now. What do
All
you
right.
got for me, buddy?
I am gonna put I think we need an anime on here. Sword Art Online at number 5.
All right.
Ooh.
Jelani.
Jelani is going to put up. I'm gonna put the DC fucking whatever it's called. I'm gonna put that at number. It deserves to be a little bit higher on this list. Let's go. I'll keep with mine. Number 4.
What was it?
Number 4.
Yeah.
DC.
Oh, yeah,
Whatever
yeah.
the hell they call it.
Yep. The ECU. The DC ECU.
Can I convince you to go higher with that? Because I want that number 4 spot, and I don't want to argue against my number 2 to get it.
Okay. You know what? Judging on. You know what? I'm gonna put it at number 2. Fuck it.
Number 2.
I'm shooting
That's
my
a
shot.
beast. That's a beast.
And I am gonna put the Wii U at number 4.
All right.
I think that deserves to be on here. So,
I like this one.
Sword Art Online going for number 5, Wii U at number 4, and DCU at number 2. We will begin our arguments with Joel over there, who is targeting the number 5 spot. 3 minutes on the clock, one of them for Joel. Are you ready?
Yep.
All right, and begin.
So as stated, when you see a trailer and then you start watching something, and it like right away you're just like, this isn't as cool as the trailer, that's a big disappointment. But when you start really watching the show and then you find out what's going on in there, it's like, all right, a kid gets stuck in a game essentially and is trying to get out of it. And you know, in there, if you die, you actually die and whatnot. So it's kind of weird. But it was, aside from being extremely predictable, which is like, even Dragon Ball was not this predictable.
Yeah.
And they gave you all the show as a recap and then a forward to the next episode, and only like 5 minutes was actual new show. But this was just like so predictable the whole time. It was terrible. And not only that, but I didn't like that the character ended up like learning to hack, even though he never knew how to do anything to get his way out of there and survive, kind of thing. And it just was a load of shit.
5
The
seconds.
animation was complete garbage because it was like the worst CG. So I just think this one had to be on here. There is no bad anime out there right now, and this was terrible.
It's the poor man's dot hack, it seems like.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
kind of crappy version of
It's a
that.
great concept, but they just
That's
Great
wrong.
concept.
Yeah.
Yeah, done wrong. I am going to
Exploitative, too.
take over.
Do
At
it.
number 4, I am trying to get the Wii U on this list, and I'm going to tell you why. Nintendo is known for their great hardware and their great IP. Name me one of those great games that happened on the Wii U. You know, there was no Mario I mean, I'm sure there was, but nobody's going to say their favorite Mario happened on the Wii U. No one's going to say their
Yeah.
favorite Smash was on the Wii U or their favorite Zelda. So it didn't have the titles. It was just kind of a weird looking piece of tech. I mean, it had the second screen, but why? It was basically just a Wii, but in black clothing, which was kind of boring. Like, the system wasn't designed elegantly. The hardware wasn't up to snuff with anything of the generation. It really just was
And in
forgettable.
between the Switch.
Yeah, in between the Wii, which was a masterpiece
Yeah,
of
yeah,
its time, and the Switch, which is a masterpiece of now,
Yeah.
you had this Wii U that no one asked for or wanted. And it's just
they
forgettable.
jumped the gun. They tried too quick or something.
Exactly. I give them props for going for it, but it didn't work out. And I think the Wii U is going to be forgotten.
Didn't you have one?
no.
Okay. All right. Thank God. I didn't know if we were making him feel bad.
No.
Which, I mean, if you bought one, it's not your fault because Nintendo has built up enough goodwill to make people want to buy their shit all the time.
Yeah.
It just wasn't good.
It didn't make me want. It confused people.
Yes, it did confuse people. I got confused a little bit by the chat, but my time is long past. Jelani, why don't you tell us about the DC?
The DC, whatever the hell it is.
Yes.
let's try and rush to make an MCU knockoff is what you tried to do here, instead of going your own way and building your own universe with the number of stories and characters. Some of the, like, for me as a DC fan, some of the best characters ever created, and you drop the ball, right? You don't stay focused on your tone. You don't stay focused on how you connect the films. You can't. I mean, like, everything. The only thing that was somewhat passable in the DC universe and the cinematic universe was the fact that they actually had themes to their characters and music. But like, other like that's not the best. I mean, if you're coming on with films that don't mesh well together, that you're not hiring the right actors for, that are shitting on a legacy of like storytelling that you've had in the past, like,
and don't forget they're hella expensive to produce too.
Exactly, and you are just dropping the ball constantly, there's a problem, right? So I don't know, it's just some of the, like, compared to what Marvel has done and carefully crafted, this was like, we need to have something too. And you think you're just gonna throw something at the wall and it's gonna stick because you have all this stuff. So I mean, it didn't work out, and it biggest disappointments because you had something really great. So
and we, I think, have a pretty great round of voting coming up, because
right.
we are done with nominating and arguing. It's time to see what of this is going on the list. We're going to start with number 5, which is Sword Art Online.
All right.
Was there enough art left to get it on our list?
I mean, I'm gonna put it there because it was one of the most rough rides I've had watching it, to the point where I gave it up. So I know the outcome, and I was not happy with it. I got my vote.
I mean, there's enough art left in this series for it to keep making spin-offs and sequels, but not enough to keep it from this list. I wholeheartedly believe this thing deserves to be on the list. It's one of the worst modern animes that we've had.
So that's a yay then.
It's a yay.
Okay, it is irrelevant from me, but I have seen a little bit of it too. I thought it was terrible. It's the art of bad storytelling. So it's a yay from me as well. Sword Art Online at number 5. Well done, Joel. Next, we will go with the Wii. And it's going to be a yay from me.
All right. I want to commend you on this one. I didn't think of this initially, but to think of a console that really did not live up to the... there was a point in time where I completely forgot about that system. I was still playing the Wii at that point because it was so much more fun. The games that were good on there, I'd still occasionally play them. But they missed their mark. You got a yay from me.
All right.
You could have called it the Wii 2.
Yeah.
You could have called it the Wii 2 and not confuse everybody in thinking it was a peripheral of the Wii. So you deserve to be on this list.
Just for that alone.
Just for that alone.
Right on.
No one remembers that because everyone doesn't think of that console. It's a console that has faded from memory. There are people who still have Wiis hooked up compared to that.
I still have mine.
There might be more people that still own Wiis than that own Wii U's.
Yeah, so there you go.
All right. Well, Wii U, you are on our list of disappointments for the 2010s. Boo. Let's go to the DCU now.
All right.
Let's start with Jelani.
This wholeheartedly deserves to be on this list. It's a piece of trash, and I want it to go away.
Aww.
And I want someone good to actually handle the stuff, and I'm looking forward to new stuff. But that's not last decade. Last decade was garbage. So DC deserves to be on this list. That's yay.
You went and you said this, and I'm like, well, let's think about what films we're looking at here. We're looking at Superman. We're looking at Batman. We're looking at Superman v. Batman. We're looking at Suicide Squad. Like, we're looking at some really, really horrible films that have put out there. Aquaman and Wonder Woman are not enough to save this flaming
too little,
pile.
too late.
Also, you guys are forgetting Joker, but
Joker, is it technically in the same universe?
It's separated, and it's also at the tail end. It's like this last. So
I know.
I
just want to bring up that and
the Christopher Nolan stuff.
Christian
Bale
before. Technically, the Joker and like the Christian Bale like Christopher Nolan stuff
are not
is
in
not like the DC
DCU.
cinematic universe.
Yeah,
where
I'm
they
thinking
try
of
to-
Batfleck when I say Batman.
Batfleck,
And so, like, this has got to
Green
be in
Green
there.
Lantern
This
and
is
stuff like that.
disappointing on such a massive scale.
What about just out of curiosity, does that include Daredevil?
I mean, that's Marvel.
Daredevil is a Marvel
Oh,
character.
I'm sorry. I was thinking of Daredevil DC. Isn't there a DC Daredevil?
No,
I don't believe so.
Why am I drawing a blank? Anyway, all right. Well, scratch that conversation.
We can edit that out
Yeah,
later.
please
That's
do.
just a little nugget
Did it,
between
did it?
us and our
You
live
must-
viewers.
You must be thinking
I
of
never-
a different character that reminds you of Daredevil. I don't know.
Yeah, I think I
Well
am, but
done.
regardless.
Uh,
Go on.
either way, what is your vote?
Oh, my vote is absolutely. I mean, I saw the one that set it off for me was Suicide Squad.
Oh God, so bad.
Yeah.
So bad. And so with that, the DCU has made it into the 2 spot, and we are moving on to our
Nice.
next
Nice,
round of
Jelani.
disappointments.
I feel
What
bad
do
for
we have
Jelani
left?
because he
We
loves
have
this.
the 1 and the 3 left.
Moving quick.
Whew.
Round 2 goes to Jelani.
Man, there's so much stuff I want on this list because there's a lot of disappointing stuff in the last
Yeah.
last decade. The 1 and the 3 spot, huh? I'm gonna go with microtransactions at number 3.
All right, microtransactions.
Let's see how that holds up.
All right, I got a good one, but you want me to go or you go?
I will go
yeah.
next. And I am going to pick Mass Effect Andromeda for number 3.
Okay.
All right, and then I am going to put Aliens Colonial Marines at number 3. We're gonna do this.
We're doing it for number 3.
All
Okay.
the games.
Which one?
Aliens Colonial Marines. I know
All
you guys
games
are
at
like,
number 3?
what is that? Why is that important? And I can't wait to give you this.
Yeah.
argument.
It's gonna be fun.
Jelani, microtransactions.
Yes.
Number 3. Your time starts now.
Guys, I'm gonna lay down a very hard truth for you guys out there who are nerds and gamers out there. Gaming companies care about their games making money, right? And it's a hard fact truth,
What?
right? Even if they care about the concept and whatever they're building, like they need it to make money. That's what they care about, right? So I understand that, right? I accept that, right? I throw my money at companies that I think are giving me great content, right? I love Mass Effect, and I'll buy it every single time if it's great. But the thing is, when a company blatantly shoves microtransactions in a game, it's very prevalent that they're trying to drain you of every nickel, penny, and dime,
Yeah.
right? And they do it consistently and constantly. It makes me lose faith in kind of like some of the industry as a whole in the last decade, because if there's a thing that is you need to get paid for what you're providing, the content you're providing, and there is I'm providing the content but locking it all off even though you paid for the content,
Right.
so like you can't even get the full experience.
Oh, and by the way, your odds are completely low to get the good stuff.
There were
true.
I can't remember the games right now, but there were games that locked off like endings to games
Yeah.
behind like paywalls. So like I don't think that's a right way to go down. I understand that there are certain things that like microtransactions are great for,
Yeah.
cosmetic things that like don't really matter, things that like just add on to the game if you want to buy extra stuff
Of
that
course.
they keep providing to it. But when you blatantly from the start block off stuff behind a paywall, that's just a failure as like just trying to please your fans, right? You're just trying to squeeze every nickel and dime out of them, and it's not great, and I think it deserves to be on this list.
Oh, and it targets
right.
children.
And what?
It targets children.
It does
It
target
targets
children, and it's
children.
basically children gambling with their parents' money.
Exactly.
It is dishonest, and I agree with you. It is
Yes.
terrible.
It's a dishonest practice,
Jabberjock
and
is lighting up the chat, by the way, with some
bravo.
good
I can't keep
tongue-in-cheek
up with
stuff.
it. I wish I could. but
Oh
just-
God, he's just laying out the economics of how terrible this
Exactly.
is.
Like Jabberjock knows. I mean, like he
knows.
we talked about it in length before. But yeah, like it's
It's
an
predatory.
unlawful, it's a
Yeah.
predatory
Yeah.
practice. It's dishonest, and you're you're doing it in a medium that like are heavily trafficked by teenagers, kids. you know, and so it's just a shitty practice to do as a company. You shouldn't be doing that, right? I mean,
so much so that the government had to step in.
Yeah.
So, put it that way.
And they're still looking at legislation for it. So, I mean,
yeah,
you said
so
it.
now,
Plus, not to mention, it's ruined some games
exactly.
with a lot of potential.
Exactly. And so I'm looking forward to like the future and hoping like industries like wake up and understand like they can't just do everything like whatever they want and do dishonest practices like this. But it is
what it is. All right. That was easily 3 minutes.
I am so sorry.
That is
right,
okay.
That's
I
how
paused
mad we
the
are
clock
about this.
because I am going to take over because I at least want to talk about
Better
mine.
listen to
Yes.
us, EA.
So sorry.
So we're going to keep hitting EA right now
That's
because
right.
I'm talking about Mass Effect Andromeda, which Mass Effect, if you don't know, has been published by EA since Mass Effect 2. Mass Effect 2, of course, was a masterpiece. Mass Effect 3 was pretty good. Mass Effect Andromeda was barely a Mass Effect game. You had to play for like 15 hours before you could even unlock one of the races that you wanted to see come back. The characters that they gave you were such caricatures, such blatant pieces of... I'm sorry, they were just pieces of shit. They were terrible characters. And you just couldn't get close to any of them. You couldn't feel connected to them until the very end of the game. It launched with tech issues. It launched with horrible animations. It just completely... It was overpromised, underdelivered. They were too ambitious. And more than anything, it was bad enough that it derailed the entire franchise. A franchise that I personally love. That is enough for me that it deserves to be on the list. Joel, let's go to you.
What year was that?
15,
Okay,
I want
all right.
to say.
All right, so I think the reason I'm really going to highlight the one that I mentioned, which is Alien...
Stop it. You stop it.
I think the reason I'm going to highlight Aliens Colonial Marines is because this was really the kickoff, to me at least, of when people started to notice unfinished games or properly like edited and checked games. This one, to the point where they actually had an error in how the aliens would track you, so they wouldn't even attack you. So your bad guys, who are the most notorious creatures in the universe, are not even deadly. And they found out that literally it was just because there was a spelling error, a freaking spelling error in the code that made it so that they literally couldn't track you. And it's like, who didn't look through the code? Who didn't play the game to find out that it didn't work before you released it? Seriously. I am so amazed by this. And like I said, this is such a cool franchise and would have translated so well to a game, and they completely blew it. I hope someday somebody redoes this, takes the Colonial Marines and does it right. But this just killed it. So unfinished games.
Oh, sorry.
This is it.
Yeah, that touched on a very big problem in the industry too, the releasing of broken or unfinished games.
I mean, Fallout 76,
prime example.
But this is the start of it to me.
Prime example.
Everybody's gotten so accustomed to just releasing day one patches and patching right afterward. It's so quick to patch a game that it seems like they've stopped QAing the games.
Yeah. So that's all I've got to say about that one. So I'm good on that end.
All right. Well, we have 3 worthy contenders for the number 3 spot here. Microtransactions, Aliens, Aliens Colonial Marines, and Mass Effect Andromeda.
Jeez.
Jelani, you get to go first.
All of these.
What a shame.
All of these very well could just like make up a whole big chunk of like of this list. I'm gonna stick with microtransactions for me. But yeah, I would easily like vote for any of you guys because like they touch on like big problems that were happening in the last decade, and I hope that they solve it in the future. But yeah,
guys, Jelani hacked the list this time. He went with the big overarching thing, and it totally won for me. I shouldn't have even gone up against it, but I wanted to talk about my thing. It's microtransactions. It's a yay from me.
Well, and I have to actually agree too. I think the broken game thing is a big deal, but for me, looking at games that have microtransactions will keep me from buying it in the first place.
Absolutely.
So I avoid them.
So there are varying levels of sin here. Because if it's just for cosmetic stuff, but that's
like
one thing.
Fortnite and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Which we don't even really. I don't.
Well, I mean,
Yeah,
yeah,
but, like,
Fortnite
a lot of
is
kids
its own
do, though,
thing.
Yeah, I know.
so
No,
that's the
you're right.
thing,
You're
you
right.
know,
You're right.
That's the thing.
But I mean, if you're talking about games that give you a competitive advantage for paying more money,
Yeah.
Oh, that's such a shit.
forget
shit
about
move,
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you know people will do it.
Well, somebody out there, money doesn't matter to, right? And they're just dicks, and they can do whatever they want.
Yeah.
So
I could like this number 3 spot on this list could easily just be broken games and microtransactions from the last decade, because like literally that's exactly what we just talked about right here.
yeah.
Yeah.
Massive
All three of
Mass Effect
these, yeah.
Andromeda was a broken ass game and
It
then paywall
was.
shit, so it easily mixes the both. Clone Marines was a broken ass game they released out there. It's almost as if they didn't play test it.
Yeah.
And then microtransactions as a whole, yeah. So for sure.
All right.
All right. Well,
Good one,
that
there,
leaves
Jelani. Good
one thing left, and
Let's
it's
do
our
this.
number one. So
Let's
let's
do
go to
this.
me first. I get
Me
to,
first.
I get
first.
to choose.
Me
First in the comments.
And I am
Bro,
going
okay.
to say I'm gonna say Avengers Age of Ultron at number 1.
All right.
Ooh.
That's a big one. And I'm.
Holy shit, are we gonna do
Oh yeah. I'm putting.
I have a feeling what we're about to do right here. Okay.
Well, we'll see, because I got to put my number one choice up against that, which is Disney Star Wars new trilogy.
Holy shit, we're about to have a Disney off for
yeah,
the first
an
spot in this
MCU
one.
versus Disney. Or I'm sorry, there's a Star Wars.
It's all Disney.
Yeah,
it's all just
Disney.
shitting on Disney. We shot on EA for the last one, and now we're about to shit on Disney with this one.
Hell yes,
Because
we are.
mine is the Disney live action remix.
Outstanding.
Yeah, the Internet Historians thing on that just came out the other day on No Man's Sky is so good. I suggest everybody go out there and watch it. It's so funny. You will have a great laugh.
All right, round 3 is upon us, everyone. The chat is going off. I want to say thank you to everyone
thank you
who's
for
out
everyone who's
there
chatting.
Oh yeah,
giving us
chatty.
a ton to react
Everybody's
to.
drinking coffee tonight.
I can
It's so
see that,
fun.
yeah.
Yeah,
Everybody except Jelani, who's got his patented Jelani juice.
that's right.
That's his coffee.
So round 3, we have Avengers Age of Ultron versus Disney Star Wars versus Disney live action. I am first on the clock. 3 minutes
That's Disney.
for the number 1 off, and here we go. Okay, so I'm just going to say this. I understand that they needed certain elements to come out of that movie to advance the entire timeline. They needed to have vision. They could have done it in 5 minutes in the next movie if they needed to.
Sure.
They didn't. They made a whole movie about it. It was bad. Spader as Ultron was just weird. The whole thing just didn't work for me. But the really upsetting thing is that it is sandwiched between some great movies, once again, just like the Wii U. It is sandwiched between greatness, and so it is completely and utterly forgettable, save for a few lines. And when you have as big of a budget and as much star power as they packed into this thing, and you're setting up such an integral part of the movies going forward, you got to hit it out of the park. And they just didn't. So Age of Ultron will always be very, very disappointing to me. It is not a bad movie, but God, was it disappointing. Let's go over to Joel now.
Well, I just want to really quick expand on your thing and
Sure.
chew up 2 seconds of my time. I'll just say that it's sad because Ultron was a reoccurring character in the comics.
Yeah.
So
It's
it's
a
great
great character.
Yeah,
great
and it's
character,
like
absolutely.
they killed it off so that he couldn't be this nefarious thing that keeps coming back, and it's just such a shame. So anyway, moving on to Star Wars, guys, I literally had thousands of Star Wars figures, and I've sold them off over the years. I've kept a bunch of them. I have like a lot of the original stuff. I was literally one of the biggest Star Wars fans there was. Even the original trilogy or the second Lucas trilogy didn't scare me off. But I have to say that when these new ones started to come out, and by the time this all started to kick off, I was already feeling very disappointed. Not by just not to say that the actors did a bad job or anything like that. It's more or less that it just feels like Disney's trying to do a giant cash grab to me.
Oh, yeah.
And it is so sad to see what is such a beloved franchise turn into something that is just being totally exploited like this. And you could say similarly like the MCU and the live action movies, but I think the one that personifies it the most is Star Wars, and I don't think we've heard any more uproar than with this one particularly. Star Wars takes the cake for being the most pissing off thing that has happened to fandom ever since fandom has existed. So in this decade, Star Wars, I'm sorry guys, you're hurting us with that one, Disney. Come on. You can do better.
All right. Jelani, Disney live action.
There's one word that sums up everything with the live action remakes of the Disney animated features, and that is unnecessary. I don't necessarily mind them, but I also am not raving about them. They're forgettable. They're not like, I remember the animated classics way more than I do these films. They don't do anything different. They don't they don't change up anything. They just they either try to go for a shot for shot remake with a little bit extra sprinkle into it. All I've ever heard about, like, when I'm discussing the live action remakes, is everyone just says it was fine. I've never heard anybody just like, it was outstanding, it was this, it was everything I ever dreamed of. It was, and retelling these classic stories are not new, right? We've had hundreds of Cinderella retellings and, all these other things. But it's when you try to go for these, you specifically state that we're going to remake the classic Disney films, and it's coming from Disney, right? You expect more. You expect some quality to this, and they're just meh, and they're unnecessary, and you're not really pleasing anybody. So I don't really know what we're like looking for when we're doing them.
We're looking for the mouse to keep hold of intellectual property rights.
And so it's just
MAU.
Like, I would have preferred like a retelling of the different stories in a different way. I would have preferred much more than just like trying to go for an exact remake. And so disappointing and unnecessary, and that's why I think it deserves to be on this list.
You guys,
I know.
I'm sorry.
The chat has made the point that the biggest disappointment of the decade is actually Disney.
You know what? We could take we've never done this. Because now we're talking about the same thing here, essentially. But
we've done it for multiple picks on this list, actually.
But I'm thinking the chat is kind of screaming something very obvious here, and we could put the chat's thing into our list. This is a show list, you guys. What do you think?
My argument to that is that Disney has done very well with the rest of the MCU.
Yes, that's the only thing. That's the only arm of this.
Well, so they've got the Mandalorian too, which is pretty fun.
Yeah.
Well, it's not perfect, but it's pretty fun. So I think they're doing some good things, but when you look at a company like Netflix, who's hitting on stuff left and right, like their success rate is way higher than Disney, despite Disney having unlimited these powerhouse franchises and unlimited budget. Yeah. So like Disney's a huge disappointment, but I don't know if all of Disney can go on.
All right. You've got
if you guys both say yay to Disney, though, I will write it down.
Well, I don't know. I mean, the thing is that would you say that the last decade of Disney was Pirates of the Caribbean? Before this decade, because that was actually pretty good,
man.
Right?
And didn't they run that into the ground?
They did
run in the 2010s.
But that's what I was just gonna say.
Exactly. I guess.
But I'm trying to think. Like, they have good stuff, right?
Yeah.
There is good Disney stuff. And I'm sure when you look at more of like the child type stuff, it's probably not that bad. But for these things which were our childrenhoods,
yeah.
They're destroyed.
There's part like
for the most part.
There's a good and
just
bad
your movie
with Disney,
Yeah,
like
of course.
I mean, you got the animation side with Pixar, Disney Pixar now and stuff like that. So like it's they do fine things.
You know what? Enough of this.
Yeah.
Let's vote on it.
All right.
I am going to vote. Shoot, I stand by what I said. If you two go for Disney, if you're in on that, I will agree.
Host, are you voting or are you making us choose?
I am deferring.
Okay. All right.
Because I am the host and I am drunk with power.
Jelani, what do you think? Do you think that Disney is in the wrong direction right now?
I don't think they're in the wrong direction. I think it's like a father, right? Looking at their child, and when they do something wrong, you don't just get disappointed in them. That you could do better. You know?
So this entire
So-
list is disappointment. So make up
And
your
so-
mind.
Yeah.
I'm not I don't necessarily think they're in the wrong direction. They could do better. But I'm going to say, no, I mean, MCU is really great. I like it, and I like the animated Pixar stuff. So I'm gonna stick with my pick, which
Okay.
was the live action stuff, or the remakes, the Disney classic remakes.
I am also going to go with the Disney classic remakes. I know technically they're not live action, but I still think of them as just live action bullshit retellings of.
No, not all of them are live action, but yes.
But I simply refuse to see them because they just upset me on a fundamental level. Whereas I still have seen everything that Star Wars has come out
Fair
with
enough.
recently.
Yeah, that's fine.
And I enjoyed episode 9. I'm
I
not saying
know,
it
and I haven't seen it,
necessarily
but-
was perfect, but I
Fixes
enjoyed
everything.
it. It doesn't fix everything.
Well, and
but
there
there
are
were at
people-
least some nods to things and some good fan
There are
service.
plenty of people that adore it, and also it has introduced it to a new generation. It's just kind of like, I don't know. To me personally, it's like it's just being exploited, and they're stripping the paint off of like something that had such a nice gleam. So anyway,
Of course.
Anyway, that's all right. I agree with that. And I'm pretty sure none of us saw Aladdin, helping the low success rate of that one.
Maybe they'll get the idea.
I mean,
Yeah, no shit.
I did see Aladdin.
Did
but
you?
that-
Oh
but that
my!
was
Get out of here!
I mean, but again, I have Disney Plus and I have
Oh,
kids.
that.
So
I didn't
mean,
even think about that.
like,
It's on there.
we watch stuff, you know.
Fair
so,
Right.
enough. Fair enough.
They're watching stuff. I necessarily don't think it's great. Kids
All
think
right.
anything shiny is great.
I
Of
heard.
course.
I heard. What's it called? Was pretty good. Jungle Book.
Oh, yeah.
Jungle
Maybe.
Book was the earliest one, and at that point, it was like that's okay. But like,
Well, the thing is, people didn't love Jungle Book like they love
Any
The
of these
Lion
big
King
yeah.
or
I know. Yeah,
Aladdin
that's-
or
maybe,
Mulan.
Maybe that's
you know.
true. I don't know. Yeah.
But yeah.
All right. We have something that you need to do for us.
Say the magic words, Joel.
I'm Joel.
Yes.
Hey, will you read
Joel
Joel A. Paprocki? Will you read me off that big beautiful list?
I will do that. Tonight, we have discovered what were the top 5 disappointments of the 2010s. At number 5, Sword Art Online. Number 4 was Nintendo's Wii U. Number 3, the bane of every gamer's existence, microtransactions.
Yeah,
Number 2, the money pit that is the DCU, or Deku, if you will.
That's right.
And at number 1, the most unnecessary and disappointing of all the things, the Disney remakes.
That's
I
terrible.
am so disappointed in this list.
I had like a bad taste in my mouth.
I am so disappointed.
Yeah.
Guys,
Yeah.
we hope you out there are not disappointed. But if you were disappointed with something that didn't make it, be sure to let us know in the chat or hit us up on
Yeah,
social.
drop what was your biggest disappointments in the last decade in the chat while we go on break.
And we will go on break for 5 to 10 minutes, and we will be back with Pop Aficionados.